what do we need to do to win gold? And they brainstormed on a lot of things, and they all said, we need to have the fastest boat. If we can do anything possible to make our boat go faster. Welcome to Life of a CISO. I'm Dr. Eric Cole, your host, and we'll be taking you on a journey each week on what it takes to be a CISO and what are solutions that you can implement today if you are currently a Chief Information Security Officer or if you want to be one in the future. This is Life of a CISO. Welcome to this week's episode of Life of a CISO with yours truly, Dr. Eric Cole. It is one of my favorite times of the week where I get to spend time with all my friends, right? Even though it's virtual, I can't wait for us to start having some live events again and really just getting to know each other and just learning about how to be world-class Chief Information Security Officers. What I'd like to do on this episode is talk about some of the challenges that I see facing a lot of CISOs. We actually launched our CISO cert. The link is up here if you'd like to check that out. We have some free resources for you. You can set up some consultation. And we did our first coaching session, and it went amazing. But one thing I find when I'm coaching and working with a lot of CISOs is it's not the technical knowledge that gets them into trouble. It's the mindset. They don't have that mindset. I hear all the time, Eric, I've only been working in security for 3 or 4 years. Nobody's going to want me to work at their company. Nobody's going to hire me for a CISO. I just don't have the knowledge or expertise that's needed. Or in another case, is Eric, I just don't feel comfortable presenting to executives. And if I try to present, it's not going to be good and it's going to be a disaster. And I'm sitting there going, you've basically sealed your fate before you even started. Do you realize the mind is a goal-achieving machine? Your mind is meant to protect you. It's meant to keep you safe. So if you sit there, and it doesn't want to prove you wrong. So if you sit there and you say, I am not going to be a good CISO. I'm not going to present well in front of the executives. I'm not going to do a good job. You're, without even realizing it, going to self-sabotage yourself. You're going to go in and it's going to be like, your wish is my command. You don't want to be a CISO. Boom. And that often causes more problems than anything else. Let me tell you right now, what organizations are looking for in a Chief Information Security Officer is somebody, the CEO, the COO, the CFO, and Chief Legal Counsel can actually have a business discussion around cybersecurity and making cybersecurity a business enabler. If you can do that, if you can sit down and have a 5 or 10 minute conversation where you don't talk about firewalls, you don't talk about IDSs, you don't talk about false positives, you don't talk about any of those technical measures, because guess what? Executives don't care, right? They don't care about that stuff. What they care about is how can we make cybersecurity a business enabler? How can we make sure that we don't lose 30% of our market share because of a cybersecurity breach? How can we make sure that we can increase our revenue and profitability by using cybersecurity as a strategic weapon? That's what they care about. So if you can go in during the interview process and you can have this conversation, yes, I'm very excited. I looked at your company and I looked at your financials and I noticed that you had a 30% year-over-year growth. And I believe that with proper security measures and technology implemented into the business, because you're very technology dependent, we could probably even get that to 40%. Here's some of my ideas. Why don't we do a better job of streamlining the integration of technology so we can, in a secure manner, allow people to be able to monitor remotely, so this way we can actually run some of the plant operations 24/7. I noticed that some of your 3 top competitors, X, Y, and Z, are break. Notice that. Notice that conversation. Now you might go, but Eric, how do I get all of that? Well, the good news is many organizations that you're going to be interviewing with are publicly traded organizations. Do you realize publicly traded organizations have to do filings with the SEC and it has all their financials in it? So you can easily get their financials, their projections, their growth rate. I will tell you, it doesn't matter what your resume says. If you go in for a chief information security officer position and you have that conversation, there are no guarantees in life, but I would be super surprised and shocked if you don't get a follow-up and you don't get the job, because that's not the conversation they normally have. I talk to a lot of CEOs and a lot of people out there, and here's the normal conversation when they're interviewing CISOs. Yes, I've worked in cybersecurity for 8 years, and I understand how to build out a robust network architecture. I've actually gone in and built out network architectures that have 7 various tiers of protection where we can actually break down data classification into top secret, secret, others. I understand the multiple types of encryption, the symmetric, asymmetric, and the hash. Stop. You're done, right? 20 seconds into that, if they weren't looking at their watch, looking at their phone, or just going like this, right? They were just being very, very polite to you. It is not a technical discussion. It is a business discussion, and that's the problem. People were never trained on how to speak like a CISO, and that's what you need to do. You need to go in there and speak the language. And to me, you need to overcome limiting beliefs. That is probably the thing that will hold most people back. And my favorite example of that is 1954. For 100 years before 1954, 100 years, it was believed, it was falsely believed, that a human being could not run a mile in under 4 minutes. Somebody hundreds of years ago made that determination that a human could not run a mile in under 4 minutes. It wasn't based on any scientific information. It wasn't based on any factual data or anything else. Somebody just made it up, and everybody believed it. So prior to 1954, for hundreds of years, nobody, even though several people were able to do it, nobody did, because their mind said, we can't do it. So whenever somebody was trying to run a mile in under 4 minutes, the mind said, you can't do it. And somebody even claimed that if you tried to run a mile in under 4 minutes, your heart would explode and you would die. I mean, just talk about crazy, crazy limiting beliefs. But that was the society that we lived in, and everybody believed it. Everybody believed it, and nobody was able to run a mile in under 4 minutes. Then everything changed. In 1954, a gentleman by the name of Roger Bannister ran the mile in 3 minutes and 59 seconds. He broke the 4-minute barrier, and he didn't die. His heart didn't explode. He had a big smile on his face. Now, here's the interesting thing. If it was true that humans couldn't run a mile in under 4 minutes, and Roger Bannister was an anomaly, then what would have happened is, for the 100 years before, nobody ran it. You would have had Roger Bannister, and then for the next 70 years, nobody would have done it. If it was truly an anomaly and there was any factual data behind that, that would have happened. But what happened after 1954? Within 3 months of Roger Bannister breaking the 4-minute mile, somebody else did. And another, and another, and another. And today, almost 70 years later, over 1,400 people have ran the mile in under 4 minutes. Now, in 1954, there wasn't a medical discovery. There wasn't a special operation that Roger Bannister went through. There wasn't a special sneaker that he wore. He just overcame the limiting belief. He convinced himself that he could run the mile in under 4 minutes. And then once he proved to the world that it's possible, and he proved that it was a limiting belief, then all of a sudden everyone else was able to do it. That shows you the insane power that limiting beliefs have over us. People after Roger Bannister that ran the mile in under 4 minutes, they tried prior and they weren't able to because their mind said, you can't do it. You're going to die. Your heart's going to explode. The mind is a goal-achieving machine. So because people believed that limiting belief, nobody ever tried. That's the power of limiting beliefs. So what limiting beliefs do you have that are holding you back in your career and in your life? What are the 4-minute miles that you need to overcome? And when I have people that have tried to get jobs as CISOs for 4, 5, 6, 7 years, and all of a sudden, after working with me and me coaching them for 6 months, they get a CISO job at a Fortune 50 company, getting paid over $500,000 total comp. I didn't go in and teach them any new skills. I didn't go in and tell them anything they didn't already know. What I did was I helped them overcome and convince them they can run a mile in under 4 minutes. They overcame their limiting belief. So right now, is there a limiting belief that's holding you back? Do you have a limiting belief that you can't be a CISO? Do you have a limiting belief that says you're not world class, that you don't have enough experience, that you don't have enough background, that you don't have the right certification? And you need to go in and do a simple process. First, and you could laugh at me and you can go on with your limiting beliefs and be held back, or you can accept that this works. To me, any limiting belief that's holding you back isn't true. And the way that you know it's not true is because it doesn't feel good. When you go in there and state that limiting belief, that I'm not a world-class CISO, that I don't have enough experience, that I don't have the proper certifications, that nobody wants to hire me, does that make you feel good? Do you feel good? Or does it make you sort of down and sad and a little upset and frustrated? Well, if it makes you feel down and sad, which it does, that means it's not true. And if it's not true, then what is the truth? The truth is you were born to be a CISO. You understand business, and there's never been a problem you couldn't solve. So now what I want you to do is come up with supporting facts. I want you to find things in your life where somebody said you couldn't do it, you didn't think you could do it, people weren't counting on you, and you were able to overcome the objective. Find supporting evidence that you can solve any problem. Find supporting evidence that you always help organizations go to the next level. Find the supporting evidence to convince yourself that you are the best CISO any organization can hire. And then start living and stepping into that. And you would be amazed once you overcome that limiting belief, everything changes for you. Everything changes. And the trick is to do what I said. Start going on interviews. What I want you to do is I want you to have a goal of 500. I want you to get 500 interviews in which companies say they're not interested. That's your goal. You look at me going, that's so crazy. Here's the trick. You want goals that you can control. The problem is so many people go, well, I'm going to go on 3 interviews, and if they don't want me, I'm going to come to the conclusion that I'm not a good CISO, that nobody wants me. Well, that's not a good data set. Maybe those were bad companies. Maybe those individuals didn't understand what they were looking for. And that's not big enough. You're going to give up way too quickly. But I could, once again, no guarantees in life, but I could almost guarantee that if you say, okay, my goal is 500 interviews. 500 interviews I'm going to go on, whether to give me a job or not, 500 interviews. I would be shocked and surprised if you don't get multiple job offers long before the 500 comes up. Now, if this was before the epidemic and we were talking 2 years ago, I agree with you. It's probably not practical because to have a CISO interview before the epidemic, let's say I live in Washington, D.C., and it's a entity in New York. I would have to go up Tuesday night, because you want to always get there the night before. Then my interview is at 11 a.m. I would then do the interview. I'd probably talk to several other people, and it might take the entire day, and there's probably no flights, so then I would have to fly home Thursday morning. So I would leave my office at 3 p.m., so I'd have to leave work early. I would have all Wednesday, and I wouldn't get back till noon on Thursday. You could maybe do 1 or 2 of those a month, even if your company let you take off 2 days every week, and you only did 1 a week, which is pushing it. You could only do 52 a year, which means to get to my 500 goal would take you 10 years. That would be insane. But once again, always look for the good. With COVID, almost all the interviews are now virtual. It's now going to all be Zoom virtual. Now you could go in and depending on East Coast, West Coast, right? If you're West Coast, then you can get a lot of East Coast interviews in before noon, right? You start at the 3-hour time difference. So you could get up super early and get 7 or 8 or 9 interviews done a day. So now, even if we're reasonable and we say, okay, we're going to do 2 interviews a day, that's now 10 interviews a week. And now you're at the 500 mark in a year. And if you could crank it up where you can go in and you can do 3 or 4 a day, you can meet that in 6 months. So now all of a sudden, it becomes something very, very reasonable. But here's the trick. The reason I want you to set that goal is you get better the more you do. The first couple of interviews, you're not going to be as comfortable, the researching all those other factors, but then you'll get the rhythm. You'll see what when I mention this, they really like that. When I mention this, they really don't like that. So, okay, I'm going to leave this out. I'm going to do that. And you should pretty much have down your 10-minute pitch where you have the answers ready to go. And once again, it should be all strategic. You should never mention the word firewall. You should never be mentioning bits or bytes. You should never be mentioning encryption in the interview when you're looking for a CISO. You should be saying things like security as a business enabler. You should be going in and saying, how can we increase revenue and profitability? How can we allow cybersecurity to help businesses run more effectively? It should be dollars and cents. That's what you should be focused on. Now, I'm going to give you a little hint. I do a lot of TV interviews and radio interviews, and you're usually going in for a certain topic. Like a couple weeks ago, actually, I think it was just last week, there was the big issue at the water treatment plant near Tampa. I did like 9 interviews in 3 days. Now, the person doing the interview, they're going to ask you the questions they want to ask, and you don't get them ahead of time. But I go in, and I have my 3 to 5 talking points. It doesn't matter what they ask. I have my talking points that I vetted with audiences, I vetted with executives, and I know will be compelling that the listener wants to hear. So, for example, one of them was, even though this is the first time we've heard about a water treatment plant being attacked, this is not an anomaly or a one-off. This is a norm. More critical infrastructure is exposed and organizations just don't realize it. Boom, right? That's a strong, powerful statement. Now, they might not directly ask me that question, but if they ask me any question, so Dr. Cole, were you surprised with this? Boom, that's my answer. Dr. Cole, can you give us a little more information of how big a problem this is? Boom, I have my answer. So I basically am prepared, and regardless of what they ask, I take them where I want to go, and I will tell you, interviewers love that because I'm the expert, they're not. and we're on a topic they don't understand very well. So if they have to lead me and they don't know the topic area, it makes them feel very uncomfortable. But if I lead them, it makes them very, very happy. Well, guess what? When you're interviewing for a CISO position with the CEO, a COO, or a CFO, it's the same thing. They don't know the area as well as you do. So they want you to lead them. So you should have that prepared. You should have one statement prepared where you know their financial growth. You should understand their competitors, and you should understand what differentiates them in the market. That must be fit in to that interview process. You then want to also make sure that you're going in and you're talking about security as a business enabler and the items that we've talked about. But the trick is, with all of this, none of it matters if you don't bake your pie, if you don't take action. And let me explain. This is my second favorite story. Marie Callender. Now, if you're not familiar with that, just go to the grocery store, go to the frozen food section, and go to the pies, the dessert section, and there'll probably be 2 or 3 freezers that are filled with Marie Callender pies. Marie Callender, when she sold the company, she's no longer in control. When she sold the company, she sold it for hundreds of millions of dollars. Do you know how she got started? She was working at a Greasy Spoon diner that was going out of business. She was the waitress at this diner that wasn't doing well. They didn't have a lot of customers, and she was a single mom supporting her family. She needed that job, and she knew the diner was closing. Now, she was busy working and taking care of things. She did not have a lot of free time. So she went to her boss one day and said, listen, I think I make a pretty good pie. Can I bake a pie, bring it in, and sell the slices to our customers? And the owner's like, whatever, I don't care. I'm losing the business. Do whatever you want to do. If you want to bake them, I don't care. Go ahead and do it. Now, how many of us, when we have that thought of going on an interview or going to our boss and saying, can I be our CISO? They don't act on it. Now, she was busy. She was tired. She was exhausted. When you read the interviews with her, she goes, the last thing she wanted to do is go home that night and bake a pie because it takes a good hour or two to the ingredients, put everything together. But she said, no. I believe she took action. And she baked one pie. And she brought it in the next day. All the slices sold out. The next day, she brought in another pie. And by 10 o'clock, people were coming in saying, where's the pie? And they're like, we're sold out. The owner of the diner sent her home to bake another pie. And then she started baking 2 pies and 4 pies and 10 pies. And she saved up so much money. She actually put a commercial oven in her house. And guess what happened down the road? She bought out the diner. That diner's not selling hamburgers anymore. All it's selling is pies. Right? And now she, when she sold the franchise, they had, I think, over 60 or 70 stores, and they're in almost every frozen food department out there. But it all started because she took the initiative to bake one pie. So my question to you is, if you want to become a world-class CISO, bake your pie. Start going and putting out videos. If I go in right now and I search on LinkedIn, what does your profile look like? What content can I find? What videos can I find? What details, what information can I find? Start baking your pie. And I would say with most people that want to become world-class CISOs, your pie is creating a video a day. Every day create a video. And then just like Marie Callender, as more and more people go in and listen to your content, you might start creating 2 videos and 3 and 5 and 10. And then like me, you might put a studio in your house just to be able to create the videos because everyone loves them so much. But you want to be a world-class CISO, step into it. If you go on an interview and you do what we talked about, where talk strategic business, and then they look you up in LinkedIn and they see videos and content and people commenting, and you have 20,000 followers, and every time you put a video, there's hundreds of people that comment and put it out there. By the way, that won't happen overnight. It'll take a while, but you have to be consistent. Of course, they're going to hire you as their CISO. So this is something where, once again, stop making things that are not important important. Oh, but Eric, I don't have a doctorate. Who cares? I don't have 20 years in cybersecurity. Who cares? You understand business. You want to be a world-class CISO. Start baking your pie. Start creating your content and putting your information together. And once again, my goal for you is a minimum of 1 video a day. So at the end of a month, depending on which month it is, right? February, you'll have 28 videos. Some months you'll have 30, some you'll have 31. Every day you create a video. And I always love that one because people come up to me and go, Eric, wasn't it your birthday a few weeks ago? Yep. So you took a day off. Nope, I created a video. What about on Saturday? I create a video. What about on Sunday? I create a video. What about I create videos every single day. Now, to be fair, because the way I work, I will sometimes come into my studio like today, and I think this is my 8th video that I'm producing today. So I'll sometimes come in and knock out 10 or 12 videos. Then tomorrow or the next day, I carry a little notepad with me and index cards, and I write down new ideas. So every day, I might not actually create the video, but at the end of the month, I usually have at least 60 to 70 videos for every single month. And that's how you get better. You constantly do it over and over and over again. So that's going to be your second trick. The third one, which is another one of my favorite stories. When the British rowing team, the crew team, right? The rowing, right, in the water, when they were preparing for the 2000 Olympics in Sydney, Australia, there are different crew boats. There's the 1-person, a 2-person, a 4-person, and an 8-person. Now, the 8-person was very, very competitive. The US and the Australians and others, it was a very competitive boat. And what the Brits decided was, we're not going to invest in that. So they took their best rowers and they put them in the single. They took their next best rowers and they put them in double, and they put their next best rowers in the quads. And then whoever was left over, right, went in the 8-person boat. So they were not counting or betting on them to win. But this group of folks, they were feisty. They had fire in their belly. And they said, the only option is to win gold in Sydney, Australia. That was their obsession. Now, winning gold is great, but it's not something that's actionable. So in 1998, 2 years before the Olympics, they all got together and said, okay, what do we need to do to win gold? And they brainstormed on a lot of things, and they all said, we need to have the fastest boat. If we can do anything possible to make our boat go faster, that's how we will have the best chance of winning gold in Sydney, Australia. So they came up with a single question that guided all their decisions for 2 years. Will it make the boat go faster? So they would go in and they're getting ready to eat dinner. And they're like, oh, we're in a rush. Let's go to McDonald's. Will that make the boat go faster? Nope, we don't do it. Going to bed early, will that make the boat go faster? Yes, we do it. Getting up at 5 a.m. to exercise, will that make the boat go faster? Yes, we do it. Friday night, friends want to go out and get beers. Will that make the boat go faster? No, we don't do it. So literally, every decision in every area of their life was guided by a simple question. Will it make the boat go faster? And then, of course, everyone always asks me, did they win gold in Sydney? Yes, and otherwise this would be a really bad story, right? But they absolutely did, because they became obsessed with that goal. So if you want to be a world-class CISO, what if all your decisions are about, will it make me a world-class CISO? Will it make the boat go faster? So if I go in and I create a video today, will that make the boat go faster? Yes, do it. If I'm going to go in and on the weekend, I'm going to sit around and watch sports on TV for 4 hours, will that make the boat go faster? No, don't do it. If I read a book on business, on blue ocean strategy, will that make my boat go faster? Yes, do it. So I urge you, if you want to become a world-class CISO, get obsessed. And every decision you make in your life, ask yourself a simple question. Will it make the boat go faster? So just summarize. The technology is what it is. You have that. If you want to become a world-class CISO, first, what are the 4-minute miles in your life that are holding you back? What are the limiting beliefs that are false, that are stopping you from accomplishing your goals? Second, bake your pie. Create videos, create content every single day. Bake your pie. Do the work. And finally, become obsessed. Everything you do in your life, determine, will it make the boat go faster? And once again, there are no guarantees in life. But I'm pretty sure if you get rid of limiting beliefs, you start taking action, and you become obsessed with your goals, you will very quickly become a world-class CISO.